afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining me as we take a look at your Easter weekend forecast, which is looking better than the weather has looked over the last few days. Less dreary. We're actually going to see some sun, and should be pretty nice. And we're going to talk just briefly about something we're probably going to talk about a lot more about next week, which is a pretty big, high-impact storm potentially for the middle of next week, potentially Tuesday and Wednesday. Could be long duration, could be a lot of snow, or it could be a mix of snow and rain, or it could be mostly rain. But definitely the models have put out a bunch of snow for it, so at times, and it's going to be marginal, just like everything else this winter, but we'll have to focus on that as we go. All right, so first thing we're going to have to deal with is we are going to be mostly cloudy today, although I think this afternoon we may get a peak or two of sun. But we have our system offshore, which is going east of us. There's been a ton of rain for eastern New England. We have mostly just gotten showers out of this. And we are basically continuing with that this morning. I'm going to show you radar. It looks like it's snowing or rain/snowing on top of us right now. It is really not. The storm is too far east. What's happening over the top of us is evaporating well before it ever touches the ground, and it's never going to really as the storm continues out to our north and our east. But behind that, you can see we've got a pretty good sliver here of nice weather, and that's what's going to impact us for most of the weekend, with some question marks. This system here, at least the warm front that's right here, is going to kind of approach us and slide mostly south of us. But that would be sort of the wrinkle in terms of how sunny exactly we're going to be. There will be no precipitation, so that's the good thing. Definitely no precipitation. How much sun we get is still a little to be determined, particularly for Easter sunrise services. Will it be sunny? I think a pretty good chance of clear weather for that with a few clouds around. So I think that's generally what we're looking at. So pretty nice, which is good, and relatively normal temperatures for the weekend. So let's take a look at radar, bigger picture radar. I'm going to zoom in on us so you don't have to take too close of a look at that now. But you can see not a ton going on across the country except for this storm across the Dakotas, which is, like I said, going to kind of sink to our south and not really impact us much over, it's mostly going to be further south, and even it's sort of going to die as it goes as a clipper type system. And it's not until next week's system, which is still offshore. We're not going to kind of show you the details on that, but next week's system, which will kind of ride up and then redevelop off the coast potentially, and have all sorts of details with it that we really get our next high impact weather event. That won't be till earliest Monday night would be our earliest, late overnight Monday night would be our earliest impacts from that. So not to worry about for this weekend's forecast. Let's take a look closer to home. You can see it looks like this is, we call this virga, which is rain that is droplets that do fall, or snowflakes as well, that are falling from the skies, but it's dry enough that they are evaporating before they hit the ground. Really none of this precipitation aside from basically the eastern half of Massachusetts. Southeastern New Hampshire will again get clipped by a little bit of this, and then Maine is definitely getting this. In Maine, eastern Maine particularly, may, as the storm wraps up, change a lot of this. Northern and northeastern Maine may change a lot of this to snow, where they could get a lot of snow up there, but this storm will not have any of those impacts for us. We're basically dry, even though it doesn't look exactly like that now. Let's take a quick look at temperatures, and you can see winter is not gone yet, at least not entirely. We've actually built some even colder air across northern Canada, and this definitely has an opportunity to push south potentially. Not right now. We're going to kind of stay in this relatively average position, but there's cold air there to tap for the next system, the midweek next system, which is why snow is definitely still a possibility, even though we'll be April 3rd. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, maybe by the time we actually see this happen. Again, it's going to be a real close call, but it does look like a lot of precipitation one way or the other is going to fall, and the storm itself has been very well modeled by all the models. Where the heaviest precipitation falls, it could be really anywhere kind of across northern New England from Vermont and upstate New York to Maine. So exactly, but everybody's going to see at least some precipitation. It will last a long time, and there will be question marks probably almost up to the end in terms of exactly what happens. Is it mostly snow? Is it mostly rain? Is it a mix of the two? Is there an area of sleet or freezing rain mixed in with that? All of that is very much on the table. So I just want to kind of make you aware of it, that will probably impact some stuff next week. A lot of models have come in with snow for us in southern Vermont and potentially big snow. So there you go. I'm sure everybody's been excited that we're getting snow finally now at the end of March and maybe into early April. It's not really unusual to get snow like that. And again, I talked about this a bit on my patrons forecast on Wednesday. One of the reasons this is starting to happen now is El Nino is breaking down. And actually, if we take a look at your upper level pattern, you can see that a little bit. The southern jet stream has lost a little of its gas here. So the subtropical jet stream. And the reason that has happened is because El Nino is kind of relatively quickly breaking down. Usually this is not unusual that El Nino starts to break down, and it's often in the spring that this happens. And we're actually probably moving towards La Nina. All of the long-term models on that, the few month out kind of models, which are, believe it or not, those models actually tend to be much more accurate than the day-to-day weather. It's for a lot of mathematical reasons. But anyways, that's pretty likely that we will end up in La Nina this summer, which brings different weather effects. But one of the things it does is it kind of shuts off at least the strength of the southern jet stream. It allows the northern jet stream to kind of, these full latitude storms to happen more often, which is likely what's going to happen. So that will allow for the weather to change a little bit here across the country as we head through Easter, or as we head through the rest of spring, sorry. Lost my train of thought there for a second. We are looking at, so we are, as that happens, the other thing that will impact is hurricane season. La Nina, El Nino tends to suppress hurricane activity in the Atlantic Basin because of wind shear reasons. La Nina tends to limit wind shear and increase hurricane activity. So that's not good news, but that's maybe a reality but we don't have to worry about that until summer and early next fall, really. But that's just something to kind of look forward to, or be prepared for is probably the better word. Here's our storm that's coming through today, and here's this trough that will kind of be reinvigorated by a couple pieces of energy that eventually will be our storm next week, but for now it is just across the west coast. You can see that temperature-wise we're kind of relatively even across the country here. So let's take a look at those actual details. What does that look like? Today we are mostly cloudy. I think this afternoon we'll get a peak or two of sun, temperatures in the low to mid 40s. I think we'll clear out most evenings. This will probably be a mix of sun and cloud, or not a sun, a mix of clouds and clear tonight, but temperatures in the upper 20s to near 30. Tomorrow, basically very similar today, except more sun tomorrow and on Easter. Both of these days are probably more sun than clouds, although there will be some clouds around, and overnight we tend to clear out. Temperatures all 3 nights will be in the upper 20s, basically, for most places. Could be some 30s in other spots, and low 40s for high temperatures. Before I give you the highlights of the week, I did want to, I know most of you were, if you've gone to my website or anything like that, you've seen that the thing I actually do in life, besides the weather guy stuff, what I really do is I pastor. And so I wanted to invite you, if you happen to be in the Londonderry area, so to our Easter services. If you're interested in coming, we have a sunrise service at 7 a.m. on Sunday morning, and we have our regular worship on at 10 a.m. on Sunday. So if you don't have a place to go for Easter, and you want to check out a service, come check out one of our services. We would love to have you. I'd love to talk a little weather with you, even. Limited amount of weather as you see us in the morning. Anyways, that's what's going on. Let's take a look at those highlights as we do that. We have a quiet weekend weather-wise with more sun than we have had. Temperatures will be near normal. Sunrise services should be pretty clear with just a few clouds, and a large, long-duration storm is headed our way for the middle of next week. Right now, the storm looks to bring a combination of rain and snow, and it could be significant snow potentially for next week. When will we know? This is really what I can tell you now on that storm, because I kind of laid it out for you. By this weekend, later in the weekend, we should have a pretty good idea of exactly where the heaviest precipitation will fall. And maybe by then we'll be clarified in southern Vermont as to what precipitation is going to happen. But my guess is we're going to be close to whatever transition line ends up happening. Maybe an elevation-dependent storm, or it may be a little more north-south. That depends a little bit on the dynamics. I think it probably will trend towards a north-south kind of line, as it's less about elevation, but it could be a little bit of both. So we're going to have to work that out, and that probably is a Monday kind of question that we will be able to have some better answers for that. But it might be like both of the other storms that we've had in March might be, which is that it may not really be feasible to figure that out until it's happening. And I hate to kind of bring that up as news, but sometimes it's just the way it is with storms. When it means a difference of a degree or two, there's just no level of modeling that can confidently give you that answer. You're often going to be off by 20 to 30 miles. We were probably the last storm we were off by like 40 miles, which was more than you would like to be, even on like kind of and the problem with that was it meant, I was thinking like 5 to 7 inches of snow here in Londonderry, and we got 25 inches of snow. I also kind of underestimated how fluffy the snow was going to be, which is one of the reasons that, like up near Killington, where I thought there would be all snow, instead of getting the 16 or 18 that I thought they would get, they got 25 because it was a little fluffier than we thought. But yeah, that's likely to happen for the next storm as well. Hopefully we won't be off by 40 miles. That's a lot to be off just a day or so beforehand, but 20 miles is very common. And, 20 miles is a big difference. It's 3 or 4 towns south or north of where you expect things to be. So we may just kind of have to wait and see. But we'll try to give you as accurate a forecast as we can. Yeah, that's just where it's sort of at. I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons. They help support what I do here at the West River Weather Guy. I appreciate their support. I will be back probably realistically Monday morning, and I know I've missed a couple of Monday morning forecasts recently. I will be there for this Monday morning forecast because it's going to be a big deal weather-wise, one way or the other, for the early part of next week. So I will be here on Monday morning with a forecast, and maybe even a Monday evening one, depending on what the storm looks like. We'll kind of keep you up to date as we get towards forecasting for that. All right, enjoy your Easter stuff this weekend. We appreciate your supporting the channel. I will be back Monday.